what do you see changing in 2025 as opposed to with the advent of AI and whatnot, like specifically the roofing industry?
This is probably where I'm supposed to say that AI has changed everything, and if you're not harnessing AI, you're never going to compete. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think is they don't actually require a license. You got a hammer,
true.
You can start a roofing company, right? So that's
well, they also have the Google reps from Google calling them, giving them advice. So how do you want to take that advice?
You're trying to get me in trouble with Google. Don't answer the phone. Don't talk to them.
A platform where you create the campaigns, add the keywords, and then you set it, and then you forget it, and that's all you got to do. So why don't you talk a little bit about, all right, welcome to the first episode of the Roofing Industry Podcast. I'm your host, Nazar Irfan with The Roofing Marketer. Today I have Craig Skalko, owner and founder of Lost and Found Marketing. Craig, if you want to introduce yourself, how long you've been in the business?
Absolutely. Honored to be the first guest. Hopefully you'll have many more. I founded Lost and Found at the end of 2018. Been working in digital marketing since 2015. So I've been doing the PPC thing now for about 7 years-ish, give or take. I'm loving it. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Craig, if you want to just refer to your socials, your website, so that people can look you up. Any other industries that you help, this is the plug. So let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, lostandfoundmarketing.com, all spelled out. That's our website. If you put a /roofing in there, you'll get to a page that's specifically and speaking to some of our experience there. Easiest way to connect with me outside of website is just on LinkedIn. You can look me up, Craig Skalko, Skalko. My team's on there as well, and you can find our company page, Lost and Found Marketing. We're there to help. We work in a lot of industries, actually. I've been figuring out how can I make this work for a new industry and learning about the business. So certainly do a lot of roofing and home services, but do a lot of other stuff too, and it's really fun.
Yeah, honored to have you. We're going to jump right in with some of these questions that I get asked. So first off, you've been doing search PPC marketing for a while now. What do you see changing in 2025 as opposed to with the advent of AI and whatnot? Like with search, how are things changing with specifically the roofing industry?
This is probably where I'm supposed to say that AI has changed everything, and if you're not harnessing AI, you're never going to compete. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it is certainly changing. However, I think for roofing contractors, the biggest thing that's changing from a practical standpoint is it's becoming easier and easier to blindly waste your money. Unfortunately, I think for good marketers and agencies, for the job, doing the fundamentals really well is still going to get you where you need to go. You got to be on the lookout for changes, of course. But from a contractor perspective, I think Google's increasing push towards automation and just blindly accepting their recommendations is making it a lot easier to waste money, making it really tough on in-house teams, marketing managers who wear 4 different hats in a business. It's really becoming difficult to do a good job managing PPC internally, I think. So I think becoming more and more important as time goes on to either invest significantly in your in-house staff to manage PPC effectively, and if not, got to find a good partner.
Absolutely. What are kind of the common issues that you see inside PPC accounts when you do these audits? Can you give us a few tidbits?
Yeah, of course. Conversion tracking is a big one. So, in-house marketing teams tend not to have, they might have some sort of nerds, but conversion tracking nerds are less commonly found, I guess, on in-house teams. So conversion tracking setups are always a huge issue. Google reps have gotten a hold of somebody. You'll see page view-based conversions and all sorts of different things like that just drastically impact an account's performance. Other than that, all the common offenders, auto-apply recommendations being turned on, poor keyword management, poor understanding of how match types function, poor negative keyword implementation, over-reliance on broad match. If somebody's just started up their own account, taking the recommendations now, they'll just be started on PMAX from day one, which is just budget suicide. So those are some of the common ones, and you see them again and again and again. Location settings, we've audited accounts that are spending scary amounts of money, and because of broad match, no negatives, and presence or interest location settings, all of their spend is being spent outside the country, which is just wild and scary. And those combinations of things can really impact your account in serious ways.
Now, I talk about this with clients a lot, so I want to hone in on conversion tracking real quick without getting way too technical for the audience.
Sure.
So for conversion tracking, do you recommend that it is mandatory to have third-party conversion tracking, like with a software like CallRail or What Converts for this industry? Some of the smaller accounts don't spend as much, don't really want to invest in that, and they want to just rely on Google Analytics, Google Ads for the conversion tracking. So what would you recommend to smaller roofing contractors that are just getting started out in Google Ads to do that? Because that might be a big undertaking for them internally.
Yeah, in my view, it's 100% mandatory. Obviously as an agency, we spend our own money on Google Ads, running campaigns just to do lead gen for ourselves. My stomach turns. I feel sick about thinking about spending money without having third-party attribution. That's maybe a technical term to use, but essentially what it means is you need to have some solution outside of the Google Ads platform that is going to give you visibility into who the quote unquote conversions actually are that Google's reporting on, because some of the issues we talked about in the last question, you can see a ton of conversions in platform. And when you actually have attribution in place, you can see that these calls actually turning into anything. Who's filling out the form? Are they real people? Are they bots? Are they people looking for a competitor? Are they people who are actually searching for things we don't offer? Such an important diagnostic tool, just a baseline gut check way to know whether you're getting your money out of your advertising. I would treat that as a non-negotiable for sure. So for a small roofing company, they're doing it themselves, CallRail or what. I'm more familiar with CallRail myself, but $100 a month or something like that, 50 or 100, whatever it is, that investment to actually get visibility into your marketing is money well spent. The smaller companies are ironically the ones that are least likely to want to make that investment, but they're the ones where it's probably a bigger deal because they don't have the volume of dollars in their budget to waste blindly. I think that little bit of investment in some intelligence is good. Any good agency partner is going to provide that for you. And, in the event you don't work with, worth investing in-house.
Yeah, absolutely. Data is everything, right? Let's say a roofing company that wants to start on Google Ads, they're small and, they're in a very competitive market where there's a ton of, if you take the example of Dallas, Texas, they have 20,000 roofing companies just in that metro area. If you're in a more competitive roofing market, how do you recommend they get started?
Yeah, great question. One thing I learned about Texas apparently is they don't actually require a license. You got a hammer, you can start a roofing company, right? So it's wild. Everyone's out there doing it.
Yeah.
I think especially for smaller companies, the lowest risk place to start is probably going to be Google Local Service Ads, Google Guaranteed. It's a pay per lead arm of the Google Ads ecosystem. And so for somebody just starting out, maybe you've had a bad experience, not gotten your money out of advertising, it's a pretty low risk place to start. It's also a bit more of a quick activation. Got, a solid review score on your GBP location, you're 4.7, 4.8, and you've got a decent number of reviews. Pretty low risk channel to turn on, and it can help you get that marketing engine working while you go through some of the other kind of the prerequisites, right? Getting attribution set up, finding a good PPC partner, etc. So Google Guaranteed is probably the place to start. Once you have that in place, and once you have your attribution in place and a marketing partner, then branch into PPC. So in general, big picture, brands that we work with, they want to maximize Google Guaranteed as a channel. Leads on Google Guaranteed, qualified leads anyway, are 20-30% cheaper usually than PPC. So it's a good place to start. We can help scale the spend with PPC from there because a lot of contractors don't know this, but number one, Google Guaranteed is not a set it and forget it platform. Process for working leads inside the platform. Google rewards that with better rankings in the auction. Partner can also help you analyze your competitors, set review goals to try to help you spend more and more there over time. But so what can wind up happening when you're leaning heavily on Google Guaranteed is it's also notorious for underspending your budget. So you'll have allocated marketing dollars sitting there, but they're not spending. A marketing partner can help you allocate cross-channel from paid to social, SEO, whatever else, to make sure your dollars are all actually being utilized and not just sitting there doing nothing. Google Guaranteed also, you're going to have a lot of luck closer to your location. It's kind of like a Google Business Profile. It's tied to your Google Business Profile. The best traction, the best rankings closer to your locations. You'll struggle as you get further and further away. Again, Google Guaranteed and PPC together is the best way to get maximal reach and lead gen in the market.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I was talking about earlier this morning when I had a call with a client, and they were talking about Google Guarantee and their budgets not being exhausted just to the fact that it's not managed actively. And they asked me this question about, hey, what percentage of leads do you think come from Google Guarantee versus Google Ads versus SEO? Even though we do a lot of SEO, I ranked SEO at the very bottom, given that it's organic, it's going to show up at the very end in the search engine page results. But then they were asking me whether Google Guarantee actually can be scaled more than Google Ads. So I was like, well, you got limitations with Google Guarantee because you can't change a lot of the stuff that Google Ads can do. But they were pretty shocked when I said said Google Ads is, in terms of lead generation, Google Ads is going to be your top. They thought for them, SEO is going to be the top lead generator. But then I was like, well, Google makes 77% of their revenue from ads. So there are people that click it. They're like, well, I just scroll down to the bottom and look at the map listings. Isn't that where most of the leads? What do you say to those people that think map listings or SEO is the way to scale? How do you address that?
Sure. I mean, acknowledging my bias explicitly, a PPC-oriented marketer, you really have to just take a holistic approach and think about what does a user experience when they hit a Google search result page. I need a roof. My roof's leaking. Uh-oh, I Google. You just want to dominate that page. At the end of the day, you need to be everywhere. The more real estate you eat up, the more chance you have of acquiring the user on whatever channel. Any roofing search, you're always going to have Google guaranteed. You need to be there. You're always going to have PPC probably right underneath guaranteed. You need to be there. Map pack is usually next, not always, but most of the time, you need to be there. In addition to that, of course, you have organic. You need to have a solid website. Spending serious money on PPC. Any PPC partner is going to be like, the minute you're having a website conversation, you're having an SEO conversation, right? So, I mean, you really have to, I appreciate the way you frame the question. I think anyone who's going to work responsibly with somebody in roofing, you have to be honest and humble enough that your one channel isn't the silver bullet. Mine's not, SEO is not, paid ads in roofing. I mean, it's just a knife fight of an industry. You have to spend, but SEO is incredibly valuable as well. SEO is also valuable from the standpoint of more of that mid-funnel content curation that's going to pull people in who are more mid-funnel and more information seeking. With how expensive clicks are in roofing for paid, you're really not going to do a ton of mid-funnel info gathering sort of queries in PPC. And so, SEO is a great tool to pull people in at that level and also add value to the user once they're on site. You can have an education section. So it all works together.
Absolutely. I want to know, what do you think, what are the misconceptions people have about PPC from your experience in the roofing space?
Either that a lot of people think it's instant, number one. They think it's instant lead generation. There's a lot of work to do when you launch a brand in PPC. There's different frameworks people use for how they scale accounts, and I won't get into that. When you turn PPC on, you should not expect to be super profitable, if at all, for at least 45 days. There's so much to do, from bid management, cleaning out competitor search terms, more mid-funnel information gathering search terms. Obviously, as an agency, we have lists that are pre-built that we could just immediately deploy, so we can speed up that process. Launching and scaling accounts, it takes time. So, if you're just going to turn it on and hope that in 2 weeks you're going to be swimming in leads, you absolutely will not. And you're going to struggle, because it really is a long haul game. And probably the second thing, I guess, is, we run into people all the time who just say, it can't work for me. It absolutely can. Like, there's a reason Google makes the money they do. You probably either A, haven't found the right partner, shameless plug, we think we can help you probably, or B, you haven't tried it for long enough, you haven't gone through the process, or C, and this is a big one, and it relates to your first or second question about call rail and attribution, you didn't have a setup to measure it. That is, if there were one problem to solve before getting into heavy paid spend, I would advise anybody listening to this, figure out attribution. And what that means is a lead tracking platform like a call rail or a What Converts, and then getting SOPs at your business. Who's doing the intake? Do they understand how to go into call rail, figure out what source a call or form fill came from, get it into the CRM correct, build that framework first. And frankly, especially in the trades, roofing, HVAC, plumbing, whatever, 99% of the time, that's not happening. And especially in smaller companies, most of that is landing on the plate of maybe one marketing manager and one or two office people who are also wearing operations hats, marketing hats, sales hats, customer. It's just too much. And until you get those steps, good agencies can help you figure that out, you're going to struggle. So it's not that it can't work, but there are some foundational steps that a lot of companies just don't want to make because it's hard, and change is hard. But if you want to feel good about the money you're spending, it's really, really important to do that.
Yeah. And coming back to speaking about the runway it takes for you to go from 0 to 100, let's say you take a timeline of 30, 45 days, whatnot. There will be those companies too that are, mostly worried about running Google ads or wanting to run Google ads when there's a major event like a storm, hailstorm or a snowstorm or whatever that may be. And they'll have the idea that if they just switch on the Google ads, this major event occurs, whether it's a hurricane, storm, whatnot, they'll just start pouring in leads. The rest of the year, they're just going to capitalize on SEO for leads. How do you speak to that? Because this happens quite a lot.
It does happen a lot. Not an efficient way to spend your money, unfortunately. The way that Google's evolved, without getting into all the technical details, need to have a campaign that is, if not on most of the time, optimized, hopefully by a good marketing partner or a great in-house team, so that when a storm event occurs and the search volume spikes, which it will, then you're able to scale spend. You've got Google's algorithms are trained to your geography, user device trends, time of day trends, keywords, etc. And you've got the foundation built to where storm event occurs and you can scale your spend. Just turning it on the moment a storm strikes you're going to waste a lot of money. Just to put it in perspective, the first 30 days of a campaign launch, whether that's the storm or not, manual bidding, you can probably expect a cost per lead anywhere between $500, $1,000 when you're in that first 30-day period. Once we optimize, we drive that down anywhere 125 to 250, 275, depends on the conditions and profit margins of the business and so forth, as far as what we aim for. Again, that first 30 days, you're going to be 3 to 4 times less efficient probably than you are once the campaign's optimized and scaled. And waiting for a storm to occur to turn that on, you're just going to be lighting a lot of money on fire, unfortunately. And the same goes, by the way, for roofers who want a storm chase outside of their main operating area, and they think they can just turn on another campaign 200 miles away. It doesn't work that way. And so I think from a efficient, profitable paid marketing perspective, if there's a market that you're interested in, do the work, build an operation in that market, get paid dollars going, respond to storms when they happen, but you have to have all the infrastructure in place. You are right. It's a very, very common subject of conversation with roofing contractors.
Yeah. I want to also ask you, if roofer or a business owner wants to start with Google Ads, and this is purely to see if we could help them out, and they maybe don't want to start with an agency or a marketer in the beginning stages, maybe they just want to run a few campaigns. Do you think that it makes sense for them to go out and seek that knowledge, get a few certifications? With having knowledge of the industry, they're going to be able to run this on their own. Is it not worth it for their time and their investment?
It depends, frankly. I mean, you know what? Most really good PPC marketers are self-taught. I'm self-taught, and for me, I've obviously built a team and them. Google certifications are worthless. Sorry, Google. I really don't hate you, but your certifications are worthless. So that's not really going to help you. Can an in-house team build it? But it does take time, and time is money. And so just my experience humbly working with people in the trades for a long time is it's a pretty highly reactive space. It's something that, fortunately, to the previous question, that people do just want to turn on and off, and I just want the leads now. That mindset is not conducive to a in-house team being empowered to learn and go through that process of stubbing your toe, learning how the platforms work, trying, failing, testing, figuring it out. So it's just a question of timing and investment, and the mindset of where many companies are, and the wanting to scale fast and grow revenue typically tends to be more conducive to bringing somebody in from the outside.
Well, they also have the Google reps from Google calling them, giving them advice. So what do you say to that? How do you want to take that advice?
You're trying to get me in trouble with Google. Don't answer the phone. Don't talk to them. They're nice people, I'm sure, but don't talk to them. Don't listen to them. Don't take their recommendations. If they give you recommendations, honestly, you're better off probably trying the opposite, and you're probably going to do better. I have no idea why Google has taken the approach to client engagement that they have. All the Google reps at the individual client level tend to be outsourced third-party customer support. They don't know anything about Google Ads at all. And even when you get into the higher echelons, accelerated growth type of people, they can provide a little bit more knowledge, but their interest is always growing spend, and your interest is spending well. And those are just divergent. Those are divergent objectives, unfortunately. So yeah, don't pick up the phone. Highly recommend against it.
Yeah, I'm glad you addressed that. Do you think it's more so that they don't have comprehensive knowledge of the Google Ads platform, or is it's more to do with industry knowledge being not there for these folks that are trying to give recommendations and advice to the clients that owns the ad accounts?
Of the Google reps, you mean?
Yeah, the Google reps. Is it because they don't have so much knowledge about the industry itself, or is it because they're probably not so knowledgeable about the platform itself because maybe they don't really, run campaigns on them?
I mean, it's probably a mix. I mean, they're employees, right? And there's nothing wrong with being an employee. Being an employee is great. And your job as an employee is to advance the interests and objectives of your employer. So they have features that they want people to opt into that they genuinely believe are helpful. I would never say that they're being disingenuous or deliberately misleading. They've been told what is the best thing to do, and they push that aggressively because that's their job, and that's them being good employees, and can certainly respect that. But again, it is a disjunction and an incentive that goes in the opposite direction, right? Where we're not just trying to get you to spend more money. I would love to get to where I've told many clients this. They've spent enough. Right? Invest in other channels, build your SEO, build social, do whatever else you got to do. The goal of a good paid partner is to help you spend effectively and profitably. A Google rep's not going to have access to your CRM. They're not going to be doing third-party attribution. They're relying just on what's in the platform and doing their job. Can certainly respect them for doing their job, but we have to do ours, which is to help you spend better and not just more.
Absolutely. Just want to ask you a more technical question for some of the folks that are in tune with their Google Ads account. So depending on, I guess I should rephrase this differently. We between PMAX and search ads, when do you think PMAX is a good idea to start or turn on? Do you start it usually when we start the search campaign, or do you wait? What is your strategy like? What would you recommend people do when they're running Performance Max? And maybe you can give a little bit of an overview of what Performance Max campaigns are, because a lot of the folks that are watching this might not know what it is, because it's a newer product of Google Ads. So yeah, if you want to just touch on that, that'd be great.
Sure. Well, yeah, Performance Max is a newer campaign type that Google has rolled out. And what it does is it can place ad inventory across really any of Google's properties. So search, it can include search, it can also include display ads and video ads, YouTube stuff, and stuff that shows up in Gmail, all over Google's properties. So quick turn on gets your ad out in a very broad way in a lot of different places. It is, to Google's credit, they are increasing the amount of control that advertisers have with Performance Max slowly. And they are beginning to provide more information about campaigns slowly. So it's not quite the black box that it used to be. Black box meaning you just can't see much of what it's doing or how it's serving. In terms of how to deploy it effectively for lead generation, it's an open question. People have lots of opinions. I think for most roofing contractors at the end of the day, their spends are not sufficient to even exhaust what's possible in regular search campaigns. For a lot of people, it doesn't make a ton of sense based on just the size of your business, what you're actually spending versus what's possible in search. Again, a good marketing partner is going to help you have visibility into that. Lead quality is certainly an issue with Performance Max. Probably best suited actually for e-commerce, standard shopping versus PMAX shopping campaigns is a fun debate that e-commerce people, specialists, Google Ads people have. However, you have less control with PMAX, and what it means for lead gen, for example, is like, we ran a test recently, right, where we've got a company in Florida somewhere, won't say where, don't want to divulge too much, but they're in Florida. We've got several search campaigns running around their different locations that are performing really, really well, and we're trying to find, incremental leads. And so, there's different ways to do that. Some people might introduce broad match keywords, some people might test dynamic search ads, some people might try PMAX. So we've been running a test, and even though we're doing all of the quote unquote right things, right, as far as the platform guidelines go, excluding locations outside of your target location, for example, value-based rules in place that say, hey, inside our target area, we want to actually assign value to these leads. Outside, we don't, and we're only bidding for conversion value and not just lead, number of leads. Despite doing all of that, there's pretty serious lead quality issues, which gets back to your question about why is third-party lead tracking essential? That's why, because PMAX is showing us a cost per lead of a third of what search is, but the leads are maybe 10% as qualified. And when you do the math, that doesn't make so much sense. So I think probably the most promising time and where we've so far seen the best luck in using PMAX with lead gen is when using value-based bidding, like I just mentioned, and also when the customer has a large database, they've got a decent CRM where we can export a customer list and use that existing customer list as the primary audience signal that we're pulling in for PMAX to optimize towards. Then there's more needles in the haystack, I guess, right? From finding quality leads, I'll put it that way. Worth testing. We typically will test it as an option in scaling some larger spending accounts in major markets where we've got the luxury of doing that. But just to bring it back down to kind of the simple answer, I think for, a lot of roofing companies that might be smaller or just newer to paid marketing, really trying to get that profitability engine going, it's probably a down the line thing on the roadmap.
Okay, 2 more questions and then we'll wrap this up. One question that I get asked a lot, or actually people that are in any industry in the home services, some of them think that Google Ads is just a platform where you create the campaigns, add the keywords, and then you set it, and then you forget it, and that's all you got to do. So why don't you talk a little bit about optimization and ongoing work that goes inside an ad account? I know this is like, I'm just making a joke about this, but that's the general sort of point of view when it comes to businesses looking at marketers like, oh yeah, you set up my Google Ads account. Why do I gotta pay you every month to manage it? What are you managing? So really briefly, if you can explain that in layman's terms so that people watching this can understand what happens behind the scenes, the work that we do on the daily.
Right. If anybody's seen The Lord of the Rings, the movie depiction of that, and you got the Eye of Sauron in the tower watching for the ring, that's us with running Google Ads campaigns. So as far as it being set it and forget it, far from being the case. There's a lot that gets done on the back end to make campaigns run well. So early on in a campaign, as I mentioned, so much gunk to clean out. Even when we use a lot of our pre-built negative keyword lists that we have, Google Ads, many of its match types your your ad will trigger for every competitor search in the market. Phrase match roofing company near me, broad match roofing company near me, or anything like that. It's going to show up for Jim's Roofing and Bob's Roofing and ABC Roofing and 123 Roof. Like your ad's going to get shown to competitor branded search. And you really don't want that from just like a pure finding net new customers efficiently. If you're going to bid on competitors, that's a different conversation. You want to do it on purpose. But that's one example of the waste that is inherent in an account when it launches. And so our team does for new advertisers daily audits, of search terms report to make sure that we're clearing all that crud out. And that's just one variant of relevant search traffic that can and does occur when you launch a campaign. Early on, you're also managing bids. You're looking at metrics to try to figure out where are we actually placing in search. You want to get good visibility for the important terms. When stuff starts to convert, you're really monitoring those, making sure you're getting extra visibility there. You're optimizing ad copy, testing out different ad copies, helping clients build landing pages, A/B testing different landing page components. As accounts scale and bid strategies evolve, you're making bid strategy changes, and there's a whole different workflow for managing that. You're looking at forecasts, seeing what's coming in search volume trends. There's a lot that goes into it. And that's just in platform. Then it's looking at your attribution software. We have people whose job is to just score leads that come in. What percent of our leads are qualified? That's a great metric for us to watch, right? And then helping people integrate and get into their CRM and actually get revenue dollars tied back to ads. A lot of the CRMs that contractors use are not as marketing friendly as a HubSpot. So attribution and getting actual dollars is a lot of work. Yeah, not set it and forget it. If anybody figures out how to make it that way, I guess maybe I'll be out of a job, but till then.
We'll all be out of jobs. Okay. So last question. Can you pick out 5 actionable items that a roofing contractor or roofing business owner can undertake to evaluate, use it as a criteria to select a marketing partner? What should they do?
You want 5, huh?
You can give me 10 if you'd like, but 5's good.
Sure.
Make it hard.
We'll see. I'll do as many as I can until my boss here. I think there's a lot of analogies between picking a marketing partner and consumer picking a roofing company. No offense to roofing contractors, your customers don't trust you. And as marketing agencies, our prospects oftentimes don't trust us. And so I think one of the number one things you can try to discern, not asking super technical questions about campaign management, because that's like me asking somebody questions about how they're going to nail a shingle. I can't discern whether it's good or bad. Get me testimonials and references from other roof contractors you've worked with. That's social proof of performance. Show me some reporting. Blur out the clients' names. Don't show me who they are. Show me your reporting. Show me what I can expect. Ask questions about what is your plan to actually tie this to dollars into my business. That's going to tell you a lot about a marketing partner's ability to actually dig in, go through attribution, figure out CRM, dig in with you. To be honest, I think a really great disarming question to ask a marketing agency, and tell me about the last time you lost a client and why. I think that's a good question. Honesty is unfortunately an issue in marketing, just like it can be sometimes in the contractor world, for a partner that's humble enough to say, yeah, you know what, we're not always perfect. We fail sometimes. Probably going to reveal more about their character than anything else. I don't know how many that is. Is that 5? Please let it be 5.
I didn't count, but yeah, those are really good.
Ask what happens to, like, what's the roadmap? Like, ask not for the reason of revealing technical optimizations that you're not going to know anything about anyways, but just like lay out the course, right? If they're telling you you're going to get millions of leads instantly, they're showing their inexperience. Ask them what can go wrong in campaigns, right? That's going to get a marketing agency talking a lot about revealing just their ability to respond to changes and grow. Ask them, what are they working on internally? Like, we're constantly innovating, trying to build new things, manage things better. We have a list of things internally that we're developing to try to do that. We want an agency partner who's trying to aggressively stay on the front edge, because it is an ever evolving business. One of your earlier questions. And so how are you trying to keep up with that? Any of those things are good. Who's managing our account? So unfortunately, agencies, particularly in the States, because of the differentials in compensation, a lot of the work gets completely farmed out. Is it wrong for an agency to have an international contractor? No, of course not. But you should know that. Is the house being done by actual members of your team that you have oversight of? Any of those things are really good to ask. I'm sure there's a million more that could be added.
Yeah. And I mean, we do a lot of agency partners are overseas too. I guess the way we make sure that we have in the way that we do things is by putting in SOPs in place, reporting in place, transparency metrics in place, just having a good relationship, oversight of the processes, the systems, the people. And it takes effort to do that.
Absolutely.
So it's not supposed to be an easy task, but that's what makes the results happen.
Just to clarify, I think that's great. And I'm certainly not putting you in that bucket. What I am speaking to is there are a lot of agencies in the States that they don't have anybody in-house who's an expert. They don't have that oversight and stuff's just getting farmed out. I think that's the thing that can result in a pretty tough client experience because the client never has direct touch with the person who's in the know and managing and having that feedback loop. So not putting you in that bucket for sure.
Yeah. No, you're good. I've been in that before myself where I relied on partner or agency partner that was not really fully baked into the client engagement process. Obviously, I was young, I was inexperienced, and I learned from that. I got burnt. But here I am. I think, I guess, it's been 7 or 8 years that I've been in the agency space. So a lot of learnings. I feel like I'm a noob every single day, learning from people like Craig Skalko. It's been awesome to have you on the call. Appreciate it. I hope to have you on another episode someday. Would love to learn more about your experiences. And 2025 is going to be a fun year, I think, for both of us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I'm sure there's going to be like a page for this podcast. So everybody make sure you follow what Nazar's doing. He's got a lot of good, actionable for roofers. So we appreciate you having me on.